Welcome to the Developmental Approach to Teaching Writing. It's an online course. This course has been put online just recently, now in March of 2023. What you'll see is that there's a lot of content right now, and the content will be growing. Every time I hear about new strategies, new ideas, anytime I create new content and program materials, I will be adding to this course. So this will be a continually growing course. Right now, what I want to do in this introduction is just tell you a little bit about what will be covered in the course. You will see that there'll be some repetition of information, some of the concepts that are really important. I'm a very strong believer in repetition for learning and for remembering and recall of information. And so what I'll do now is I'm going to give you an overview of what the course involves. And some of the concepts that I'll briefly talk about now, I will talk about in a lot more detail when we go through each one of the sections. This is a 10-stage approach that I have developed. And so you won't see this elsewhere on the internet. It's not something that's any kind of formal course that's out there. What I did was I really looked at what I've done over all my years of working with children, and I really look at years of experience working with children, and then I look at the concepts of how children develop. And I think that in all of my years of working with as an OT, I've worked very extensively with technology. But when we're looking at children developing handwriting and overall writing skills, typing and various methods of writing, we really have to get back to the basics of how do children really learn and how do their bodies learn. So I've got this 10 stages of this approach, and it's 10 stages of this approach that really looks at how do children eventually end up with successful and efficient and proficient handwriting skills. For every one of these stages, we're not just looking at handwriting, we're also looking at movement, sensory, the sensory approaches in all the stages, and we will touch on some technology while we're looking at all of these stages. This course doesn't focus strongly on the technology. I've got other courses that are going to be looking at all the different technology tools for writing. This course really specifically looks at handwriting. However, we will be talking about some of the, I think, essential technologies that we should be using while we are teaching handwriting. So let's look at these stages very briefly. The first stage is body pictures. So body pictures could be static body pictures or dynamic moving body pictures. And the reason I start with this stage is because we're talking about handwriting. And typically we think about pens and pencils and crayons and markers when we're talking about writing in the early stages. And ongoing, all of us as adults write with pens or pencils or various writing implements. Long before we're thinking about writing with actual tools, we need to have children really understand what their body is in space, their body schema, their kinesthesia or kinesthesia, their motor planning, their ability to really understand concepts. So what we do is we start off with images in the environment and objects in the environment and maybe animals or various objects in the environment that move or don't move. And then we have children learn how to recreate some of those pictures or the movements or the animal type movements or body postures. And that's one of the very earliest stages of the concept of where is my body in space. So if I move around and if I've got objects around me, as I move my body, what am I going to bump into and where does my body end and where do all the other objects start? And then in terms of actual shapes, if you look at this picture right now on the screen, if I'm lying on my tummy and I'm putting my hands out and my legs are straight out and I'm pretending I'm flying in the air, I could be pretending I'm Superman. If I'm standing up straight on the floor and I've got my body right up straight and I'm as straight as I possibly can be, and I put my fingers up like this, I can pretend I'm a pencil. Or if I put my hands up like this, I can pretend I'm a building. So there are lots of ways that children can use their bodies to really pretend that they are certain objects and really start understanding the concepts of tall and short and big and round and long and up and down. And I often say this with the whole body pictures, is that when you think of us as adults, when we think of up and down, this is up and this is down. This is top and this is bottom. But if you think of a piece of paper, if you think about this, if I have a piece of paper on a table and I'm drawing a line down, this is top and this is bottom. This is up and this is down. And yet, in real life, this is away from me and this is closer to me. This is away and this is close, far and close. It's not really on a piece of paper. It's not this, the up and down is different on a piece of paper than up and down in real life. And really, young children, we need to be teaching those concepts, and one of the best ways of starting teaching those concepts is with them creating their own body postures and body pictures. The other thing that I'll throw in here, and I will have a different course and different information about this, is that when we have children hold body pictures as well as do dynamic body pictures and movement, we can bring in a whole lot of training for working on primitive reflexes and retained primitive reflexes and reflex integration. So I'm not going to go into that in a lot of detail in this course, because this course really is focused more on handwriting, but I will absolutely have a lot more information about this section, the body pictures and body postures and dynamic body postures for primitive reflex integration. The second stage is scribbling. And I can say so much about scribbling. Right now, this is just a quick overview, so I'm just going to say super quickly right now. Scribbling is one of the most essential stages before writing happens, and I see a lot of scribbling being glossed over. I see a lot of people in early childhood environments feeling that scribbling is really kind of a waste and it's not productive, and people move far too quickly into tracing of letters and words and trying to learn how to create letters and words and forms that are letter shapes. And scribbling is not really allowed or encouraged as much as it should be. Scribbling is an absolutely essential pre-writing skill, and it's essential for a lot of other reasons. It's essential for confidence development and for motivation and for volition and for children just feeling proud of what they've created without even having to have created something that is really meaningful. Scribbling doesn't have to have a meaning. And so in this section on the course, I'm going to talk about scribbling a lot: random scribbling, creative scribbling, non-adult directed scribbling. So this is going to be a very important section in the course that we talk about scribbling. The next section is early or immature representational drawing. Again, I feel like we push our children far too quickly into our need as adults for our children to be creating images that are representational. Children need to go through the stage where they are drawing images. So this is beyond the scribbling stage. Now, one thing I will say, these stages are not sequential and linear, and they're also not fully parallel. There is some overlap. So if you look at my fingers here, if you look at the scribbling stage and then you look at early immature representational drawing, there has to be some overlap. So it's not like a child goes through scribbling and then they stop scribbling and then they start drawing these early immature representational drawings. There'll be times where they scribble and it means nothing and it doesn't look like anything, and then there's going to start becoming times where they're starting to draw drawings that are a little closer to what the real image is, but still not quite the real image. So early immature drawing, again, not adult directed and with very little adult input. We'll talk quite a lot about adult input, and we'll also talk a lot about how children are creating these drawings, because again, I just want to get away from the idea that kids always need to be drawing with a pen and holding a pen. And I personally, I think I might be a little bit old school, and I know people have different opinions about this. I have fairly strong opinions about the need, if we can, for as many children as we can, for developing a good pencil grip with good intrinsic movements for actual writing. I'm going to talk about that a lot more later on in the course. However, for this stage, this early immature representational drawing, children don't have to be holding a pen, and we certainly at this stage are not looking at pencil grip or hand function. We're really looking at, no matter what they're drawing with, can they start drawing images that have some kind of representation that are starting to approximate what real images in life are. Next stage is mature representational drawing. And some children, this is where you're going to see that some children with really good visual perception skills, with very good visual processing skills, their ability to look at what's in their environment, really observe, their good observational skills, good visual figure ground perception skills. Those are the children that are going to be able to start processing that information visually and in their brains, and have sufficient motor planning to start representing those images on a piece of paper with drawing. And some children are never going to have those skills, and some adults are never going to have those skills. When we look at mature representational drawing, for me as an adult, this image here is about as good as I can get for mature representational drawing. But we're going to talk about this in a lot more detail, because more mature drawing is not just the ability to draw images that are accurate. It actually is the ability to draw flowcharts and outlines and mapping and sequential information images, and sequential images with that will provide information. So really a visual representation of what people are thinking. So there's a lot more to do with mature drawing than just drawing pictures that look like pictures in the environment. So that really gets more into artistic talent, which is different than what I'm talking about in this course. Then we move on to pre-writing forms and shapes. And pre-writing forms and shapes, children need to have an understanding of drawing basic shapes on a piece of paper before they really are going to be successful with drawing a complex range of 26 lowercase letters and then 26 uppercase letters, and then all the different other characters that are on a that they need to be able to write, all the different punctuation characters, and then not only drawing those letters as letters, but then putting them together and having them actually have meaning. So it becomes, writing is an exceptionally complex process, and as adults I'm not sure we always understand quite how complex it is with learning all of those different parts of learning writing. So pre-writing forms and shapes are essential for writing on a piece of paper, but even before we do writing on a piece of paper, if children are not able to, with their own hand or their bodies in space, if I think of a line going down, this for a young child, this being up or the top is very logical. And then if I reach all the way down, I'm going to reach my body all the way down and go off camera. If I touch the floor, that's down or that's the bottom. So it makes a lot of sense for a line to go from, if I go on my tippy toes, as far up as I can go, and if I touch the floor, that's as far down as I can go. And children that start learning how to make those shapes in their normal daily life and their daily movements are going to be more accurate with their drawing than children that are really not even able to move their bodies to make those shapes. So in this section, we're going to talk a lot about body movement for basic shapes as well as drawing. Then we go on to early letter development, and I really like the idea of teaching early letter writing based on the kinesthesia of how letters are written. And so I like to divide letters into groups. So the up and around group is letter group 1, the down and up and around are letter group 2, and then there's letter group 3, which is a whole lot of letters that don't fit into the first two groups. So we'll talk a whole lot about early letter development in the course. And then we go on to specific writing strategies for writing individual letters, and then how do children put those together to make words and sentences, and then how do they actually become entire paragraphs. So thank you for listening to this introduction. I'm hoping you're excited about this course. Please remember that this course is going to be a continually growing course. This is not a finalized, static, one lot of information course. It will grow. every week when I think about new stuff that I'm creating or new information or anything else that's relevant to this course, it will be added to this course. And we will be letting you know every time there's an update to the course. I welcome your feedback. I welcome any input that you may have. I would love for you guys to join my Facebook group, the International Working Group, if you are interested in not only discussions about these approaches, but also if you have students, if your students are doing any of these activities the way that I'm describing it in this course, and you would like to share those so that other people can also benefit, I would love to have your students' information in the course. Obviously, parents would have to give written permission, but I would love to have actual examples of what children are doing so that people can learn from each other. It's really just crowdsourcing. If we all learn from each other and really see what the kids are doing, it means a lot more than just hearing me as an adult talk about these concepts. So thank you, and let's dive into the course right now.